Alright, welcome to the last video on memory. We're going to look in this video at amnesia as a result of brain trauma and some neurodegenerative diseases as well. So amnesia is a temporary or permanent, partial or complete loss of memory. And there are obviously many symptoms to amnesia: memory loss, confusion, inability to recognize faces. Amnesia can be caused by brain damage. And brain damage is said to have an organic cause, which can be like a blow to the head, stroke, chronic alcoholism, etc. If amnesia occurs because we are motivated to forget, like a traumatic event, for instance, then it's said to have a psychological cause. So organic cause is a physical component, and psychological cause is obviously cognitive in order for amnesia to occur. There are two types of amnesia that we need to know about. I have here some links to some videos that go with each type of amnesia. So if you haven't seen The Vow or 51st Dates, you might like to have a look at these videos here in some scenes that look at the two different types of amnesia. So the first one we're going to look at is retrograde amnesia, which is a form of memory loss for events occurring before an amnesia-causing event. So there needs to be an event like brain trauma, a stroke, or a traumatic event, and that's going to cause some type of memory loss. Retrograde is for memories that occur before the event, so before. If they have retrograde amnesia, sufferers can form new long-term memories if the amnesia is temporary, and obviously the degree depends on the extent of the injury. Brain injury interrupts consolidation, so information is lost. Retrograde amnesia is often temporary and memories gradually return. So they can form new long-term memories, they just can't remember. So a form of memory loss for events occurring before the event. So they can't remember stuff that happened before the event. Anterograde amnesia is a form of memory loss for events that happen after the amnesia causing event. So if there's an event that happens, brain trauma, blow to the head, they can't remember stuff after the event. So this is their inability to form new long-term memories. So they can still access their old stuff, but they can't form new memories. Generally affects declarative memory, like semantic and episodic, but not procedural. And brain structures involved in consolidation are damaged. So if I go back to those two videos here, The Vow and 51st Dates, what we find is that The Vow goes with retrograde amnesia. So there's an event that happens, and she can't remember stuff that happened before the event. So there's a significant period of time that she can't remember, but she can still make new long-term memories because she can remember stuff that happens afterwards. Anterograde amnesia goes with 51st Dates, so that's where she remembers up until the event, but she can't form new long-term memories. So that's why she's living the same day over and over again, because she can't, at the end of the day, her brain can't store that information and remember it the day after. There's a nice little picture here. So retrograde is before and anterograde is after. The effects of neurodegenerative disease. So a neurodegenerative disease is a disease that gradually and progressively kills nerve cells and results in the nervous system dysfunction or permanent loss of ability. So nerve cells are killed and are brought about. There are obviously many causes for neurodegenerative diseases, and they can obviously affect different parts of the body. So it depends on which part of the brain is affected, that what it can affect or what the outcome will be. Dementia, as a term, is a general term that describes the symptoms of a variety of illnesses that can kill brain cells and result in irreversible structural and chemical changes that impinge on cognitive ability. So it's just describing symptoms. It's not a disease itself. It just looks at a range of symptoms that diseases can cause, which is really, really important to remember. So there's different forms of dementia here. It affects a number of brain areas, has varying symptoms depending on the area that is affected, and it affects personality and behaviors due to the progressive and irreversible cognitive decline, and it can severely impair daily functioning. We have a range of different symptoms that dementia can include. Doesn't have to include all of them, and obviously the how bad these symptoms are depends on, again, the area of the brain and how bad the disease or the illness is. Confusion, personality changes, memory loss, ability to perform everyday tasks. There's lots of symptoms there that dementia can include. Alzheimer's disease is an irreversible, progressive and fatal neurodegenerative disease that gradually kills brain cells, causing severe cognitive and behavioral decline. So Alzheimer's is a disease that you can get. The risk of getting this disease obviously increases with age, and Alzheimer's disease is the most common form of dementia. So people with Alzheimer's disease have dementia. Remember, dementia is a group of symptoms that can occur from a disease or an illness. Some information there about Alzheimer's disease and its prevalence is quite amazing there as well. Brain scans. So if we're linking it into the parts of the brain that are involved with those who have Alzheimer's disease, so the earliest damage occurs in the hippocampus. If we've got damage to that area, obviously the hippocampus can't do itself properly. We know that the hippocampus is involved in memory and memory formation. So obviously that's why the memory loss is a symptom here. There's a loss of neurons and synapses in the cerebral cortex, in the temporal lobe, the parietal lobe, and then the frontal lobe. And it sort of does like a circular motion around. Remember, the temporal lobe has a major role in memory formation, which is why memory is that first component to sort of be lost when we have Alzheimer's disease. And then as we move through the parietal and the frontal lobe, we've got attention, learning, and higher cognitive abilities will all end up being affected with Alzheimer's, which is why daily functioning can be really hard. The amount of folds in the brain decreases, and the fluid-filled spaces are enlarged. So you can see here that would be an Alzheimer's brain, and this is a normal brain. That's obviously going to impact upon the brain's ability to function properly. There is no single known cause for Alzheimer's disease, but brain scans have revealed webs and tangles. So what we do need to know is that Alzheimer's disease causes clustered deposits of abnormal beta amyloid proteins that form outside of and in between the nerve cells. So these beta amyloid proteins you can see here, these little clusters are obviously going to impact upon the neuron's ability to communicate effectively with each other, which impacts upon cognitive ability. Alzheimer's brains also produce reduced levels of neurotransmitters like acetylcholine. Again, remember, acetylcholine is involved in memory, but if we have less neurotransmitters, neurons aren't communicating properly, which is going to slow down cognition in those different parts of the brain. So what I would definitely make sure that we know about when we're talking about Alzheimer's disease is that physiologically they have these amyloid plaques and these neurofibrillar tangles. So these are those collection amyloid plaques are those collection of beta amyloid fragments that collect outside and inside of the nerve cell, destroying synapses, and they can't communicate properly with each other. And then we have these neurofibrillar tangles, so twisted strands of proteins that are found in the center of dead and dying nerve cells. So these tangles are obviously going to impact upon the normal functioning of a cell, and they're a problem when they become overexcited and begin to assemble nerves in a chaotic and tangled form. So obviously we've got some confusion and stuff going on there, that nerves aren't really doing what they're supposed to be doing there. So two physiological things that we see within those that have Alzheimer's disease that you guys need to know about there. Hopefully that makes sense. Thanks for listening.